Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 46 installments. That's 46, four away from 50 virtual readings that we've done at Cavankerry Press. I am your host, Dimitri Reyes, and by request by one of our artists, Bridget Bell, I will wear this candy cane on the side of my head as if I am a telemarketer. And it is my pleasure to welcome you all to our 46th installment of the Cavankerry Press reading series. This is a special reading because though throughout the year we feature individual authors from Cavankerry Press and bringing their guests, this is my favorite event throughout the year, as if all the other events aren't my favorite event, because this is kind of the greatest hits. This is where we get that medley mixtape that you might get from your favorite main Ave in the city, where you can get all of your great art in one place. We will be celebrating all of the complement of Cavankerry authors for 2025 tonight. So you will be hearing from Bridget Bell. You will be hearing from Nadia Alexis, from Noah Davis, from Esteban Rodríguez. You will be hearing from Joan Cusack Handler, Danny Shaw, and Marina Carreira. All lovely, lovely authors as well as lovely, lovely people. Before we begin, I will start with my visual description. So I am a Latino male in his 30s with brown skin, matching my brown glasses. I have a cozy Christmas hat on and a green sweater to be festive this evening. Before we move on to the run of show tonight, which each author is going to read for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then afterwards, there's some pre-prepared questions that I like to ask authors curated for this year, just because these are the questions that we kind of get asked throughout the entire year. And I'm kind of compiling so we can get a full splay of what it's like to be a Cavankerry Press author, to release a book, and then what they've been doing since. But before that, coming to you live from the other side of the world in Australia, we'll have our executive director, Gabriel Cleveland, who is going to share a few words.
All right. Good evening, good day, everyone. My name is Gabriel Cleveland. I'm the executive director and managing editor for Cavankerry Press. I'm a man in his late 30s with pinkish white skin, medium length, wavy, dark blonde hair, and a short reddish chin strap beard. It is sort of glowing behind me here. We've got gold and yellow and white background. My glasses have a reddish tint, and I'm wearing a black jersey with yellow accents. It has been my honor to work with these fantastic authors and to bring their powerful books into the world. Each of them approaches the reader with such generosity and willingness to give a thorough and true representation of what it means to be human in our current world. Bridget Bell's All That We Ask of You Is to Always Be Happy provides a deeply personal, unflinching look at the silencing and pain of maternal mental illness and extends a healing hand to mothers everywhere to say, "You are not alone. We hear you, we see you, and we are with you." Nadia Alexis's Beyond the Watershed is both a work of witness, presenting a family lineage of cultural and generational trauma against the backdrop of immigration from Haiti to America, and a work of self-empowerment, breaking cycles of violence and reclaiming authority over one's own life to build a more compassionate future. Noah Davis's The Last Beast We Revel In portrays how people not only survive in parts of the country where the very landscape is defined by the extraction and exploitation of both human and natural resources, but how they rebuild, grow, and thrive through connection and care for one another. Esteban Rodríguez's The Lost Nostalgias paints a portrait of transformation from adolescence into young adulthood, in which the shadow of cultural embarrassment in one's parents and a desperate desire to fit in gradually gives way to a pride in and appreciation of their many sacrifices, and reveals the myriad ways we say, "I love you, I care for you," to one another. Joan Cusack Handler's Lights in Cold Rooms offers a vital roadmap for all of us navigating the pains and changes of aging and seeking a better connection to and relationship with ourselves, and does so through a therapeutic lens, revealing how to proceed through the world with a deeper sense of understanding and kindness. Marina Carreira's Dead Things and Where to Put Them shares a fierce and tender love in a time of destruction and loss, revealing how we survive and find essential moments of mercy and redemption hidden just out of sight. And Danny Schott's The Jersey Slide showcases what makes New Jersey great, the people, from every angle and through deeply personal insights that are unafraid to shine a light on the contrasts and contradictions of those who feel and reveal every gritty and wonderful aspect of themselves. As I wrap up, I want to express a deep gratitude to each of our authors, as well as our amazing designers, Mike Corral, Coral Sue Black, Natasha Kane, copy editors and proofreaders, Joy Arbor, Bridget Rome, Toma Zabrizer, team members, Dimitri Reyes, Tamara Alkhasi Coleman, and Dana Harris Travado, all of whom, without which any of this would be impossible. Thank you to every one of our readers and audience members for being part of the Cavankerry family. And finally, of course, to the late, great Baron Wormser, who offered invaluable editorial insights on each of our books and mentorship and kindness to the team since before Cavankerry's inception. We miss you dearly. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. So without further ado, take it away, Dimitri. Thank you all. Enjoy the show.
Thank you. And Gabe, before you exit, if everyone could just please give Gabe a round of applause, who always throws so many flowers on so many other people. And, he's the executive director that continues to keep us all employed, that continues to make sure that all the authors have these wonderful books and that we could continue doing the good work. So it is with love that I'm telling you, Gabe, our executive director, take your vacation. It started already. Go,
Yeah.
leave,
Uh,
get out of here.
all right.
All love, brother. Enjoy. See you next year.
Thank you.
All right. And before we move on, at Cavankerry Press, we also recognize the power of literature and to preserve culture, to confront inequities and inspire connection. So I want to acknowledge that in Bergen County, New Jersey, where Cavankerry Press is located, it belongs to the Munsee Lenape people, and we honor their history now and always, especially during the holiday season. Our social media coordinator, Tamara Tracy Coleman, will be putting different things in the chat for you to check out the different places that you can support. So now, without further ado, we're moving on here. So the way that it's going to work this evening, I'm going to introduce 3 authors first. They'll all read for their 8 to 10 minutes marathon style. We may take a break or not take a break because I talk so much, and then we'll jump into the next 4. Afterwards, we'll all have a chance to communicate. So if you have any questions in the chat for the end of the year, please put that down in the chat on the side over here. So I'm reading these in order. Bridget Bell teaches composition and literature in Durham Technical Community College in Durham, North Carolina. Originally from Toledo, Ohio, she is a graduate of Sarah Lawrence's MFA program in creative writing. All That We Ask of You Is to Always Be Happy is her debut poetry collection. Nadia Alexis, a Harlem, New York City native, is a poet, writer, photographer, and daughter of Haitian immigrants. Her writing has been published in Poets and Writers, The Global South, Shenandoah, Wild Imperfections, an anthology of womanist poems, and others. A fellow of both the Watering Hole and the Callaloo Creative Writing Workshop, she has received several honors, including the 2023 Poet of the Year in Haitian Creatives Digital Awards, a 2020 semifinalist in the 92Y Discovery Poetry Contest, a 2019 honorable mention Poetry Prize with the Hurston Wright College Writers Award. She holds an MFA and a PhD from the University of Mississippi. And Noah Davis's first collection, Of This River, won the Wheelbarrow Emerging Poet Book Prize from Michigan State University's Center for Poetry, and his poems and prose have appeared in The Sun, Southern Humanities Review, Best New Poets, the Christian Science Monitor, Orion, the year's Best Sports Writing, North American Review, Poet Lore, and River Teeth, among others. His work has been awarded the Catherine Bakeless Nason Fellowship at the Breadloaf Writers Conference and the 2018 Jean Ritchie Appalachian Literature Fellowship from Lincoln Memorial University. Davis earned an MFA from Indiana University and lives with his wife Nakia in New England. Woo! It's going to be a fire lineup. First up, we have Bridget Bell.
Thank you. I'll do my visual description first. I am a middle-aged woman with uh, light skin. I have dark hair that's about to my chin. I'm wearing a gold lame button-down shirt, and I have on kind of obnoxiously large headphones. Okay. So I just want to start well, first of all, thank you, Cavankerry, for all of this. This has been an amazing year. Such a weird year to have a book come out because it was like a dream year and a beautiful, wonderful year, kind of with the backdrop of all the horrible things happening in the world. So really, example of how two things of wildly different emotional states can exist at once, which I think is a good segue to my book. So all that we ask of you is to always be happy is based on my personal experience with perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And then it is also based on research that I've done on the topic. So it's part of the Laurel book series. And it has a medical foreword by Dr. Raya Patterson, who is the psychiatric director of UNC's Perinatal Mood Disorders Clinic. And then throughout the book, there are epigraphs that I pulled from research from different scholarly articles about perinatal mood disorders. So now that you have that little bit of context, I am going to, I wish I had kept track of what I read at my launch, but I didn't. So I might be repeating, but I'm just going to go for it. This is one of the first poems in the book, and it's called This Is How You Lose Your Body. This is how you lose your body. It starts with you pissing on a stick. The needles prick a glob of cold, clear jelly smeared across your stomach. Each week, your body is named for a new piece of fruit: grape, fig, pomegranate with 1,000 seeds. The way that you lose is kaleidoscopic: melanin and silver, cloasma and mauve, a geometric loss, linea nigra, vertical stripe that divides your abdomen into domed halves. The loss of your body is glandular, metabolic, olfactory. It is a reverse loss, a multiplication. The loss of your body is amplified, everything larger: the cardiovascular swell, thick hair, and the fetus that entrenches itself in the space made for your organs as it claims your body from the inside. I'm going to read one that's called Paranoia Takes Root. It's fun to see the little like heart emojis popping up. Um, this is about, so some of the poems in the collection are autobiographical, some of them are not, some of them pull from different experiences that people told me about, different things that I read about, and then also just from my imagination. But this one happens to be autobiographical, and it's about kind of the first time I was alone in the hospital with my newborn daughter, and it's called Paranoia Takes Root. A rare quiet suspended between, excuse me, are you sleeping? Is the baby sleeping? Only the sigh of the pneumatic compression device squeezing blood through my veins. And we are alone. No bilirubin foot pricks, no oxycodone to swallow, no warnings about tissue clots larger than golf balls. You are milk coma calm. So I place you on my chest, slowly, the way one places a foot on thin ice, and let myself fall asleep as you fall asleep, pressed warm against my breast. And I dream suffocation, alarms, entrapment, asphyxia, sudden infant death syndrome. And I wake in the halcyon lull light with the knowledge that to be near you is to endanger you. This is called Checkup, and it's about when I first went back to my OB because I could tell that something was wrong, and so I went for like a baby blues postpartum depression check, and this is the story of what happened. It has a little epigraph. Checkup. Postpartum maternal mental health is a neglected aspect of women's healthcare. And that's from the Journal of Perinatal Education. Waiting, I stare up. Flat gray gulls painted on the ceiling tiles, watery marigold sky and disappearing green. The dirty birds scour for fragments of pretzel, dropped pieces of popcorn buried in the sand. The doctor holds his gray face in his red hands, says, "It's normal to cry. Don't worry. All's well." I am excavated, a cigarette butt mistaken by the gulls for something good, swollen pouch eyes, C-section scar inflamed like diseased gums. The doctor clicks his pen shut. "Do you think you would throw your baby out a window? Sneak away to Myrtle Beach?" No. He's pleased. I'm not worried. He smiles. I smile too, because that is what I am supposed to do. Two people smiling at the air in an empty room. I'm trying to find one that's not so sad. They are sad, but they're not all sad. There are some that are angry, and there are some that are hopeful, especially towards the middle and the end. So I'm going to skip to some of those. This is from the second. I'm sorry, the third section. The third section of the book. Just checking my time. Okay, so the book is in 4 sections. The first section kind of follows the arc of my experience, like the acute experience of perinatal and anxiety, perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And then there's a long poem in the second section that is about having a miscarriage after I decided to have another baby. And then the third section is about the process of having a second baby after I've already suffered from maternal mental illness. And then the last section is kind of about recovery. So this is from the third section. And it's called "A Survivor of Postpartum Depression Explains Why She Wants Another Baby." And actually, I'm going to back up just a minute because there's, I think, an important epigraph to the section to put that in context. So this is from maternal mental health expert Karen Kleiman, and it says, "If you ask a woman who is currently depressed how she feels about having another baby, she will likely say she will never have any more children. If you ask a woman who has recovered from postpartum depression how she feels about having another baby, she is likely to say she is afraid." A survivor of postpartum depression explains why she wants another baby. Because eventually the gray smog dissipates and a fullness rises, a hum laced with ache and joy. Because I always go back for more. Another helping of potatoes heaped high, the creamy cold nightcap, even when it hurts. Because I learn from the hurt. Because I love to be animalistic, pick at cradle cap, groom my infants as gorillas do. Because I'm a masochist. Because eyes stop changing colors. Because my body is already ruined. Because clamped fists shake like a colt on new legs. Because the pull of life is the strongest addiction. I'll do one more. I don't think I did this one. This is called "I Worry About Women." And I don't think that I need to explain any of the references since we're kind of a literary crowd. But I do mention in the first line Leetonia, Ohio, which is the small town where my father grew up. My dad was the oldest of 9 kids, and my grandmother had him when she was 16. I worry about women. In 1957, Latonia, Ohio, with nothing useful to stop the babies from coming, from clinging to their legs while they canned tomatoes through August heat. And the women alive now in patches of remote rural land, how a snapped serpentine belt renders a hospital trip too far, how their home becomes an island, and on all sides, not water, but green tobacco fields waiting to be cut down and burnt up. I worry about Sylvia Plath, her sadness etched bone deep, eating each inch beneath the bed of her nails. I worry about her making cookies to cream the butter, level off the grains of sugar, to take the time to measure the intricacies of a recipe, and then stick her head in that same hot space where the dough baked. And Charlotte Perkins Gilman, because I too ran my hands across the yellow wallpaper. But for me, the wallpaper and the woman trapped inside was a cockroach, dancing its corner wall scurry, then gone each time I twisted my head, until one night it was definitely fucking there. My God, the relief to know reality is reality, to be able to reach up with my bare palm and crush an insect's ancient back. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for your words. Next up, we have Nadia, Alexis.
Awesome. Great. So I'm going to read poems that I don't normally read because I'm trying to read lighter poems. But I will start off with the poem that I usually like to start off with. It's the title poem of my book. My book is a hybrid collection that has poetry and photography made by me. All the photographs were made in Mississippi, and it took me kind of moving to Mississippi to really understand what was happening in my work in terms of nature continually showing up. And so, we have city, we have Mississippi, we have New York City, Mississippi, and Haiti in the book in different ways. So I will start with the title poem. That's probably all I will say. Watershed. I arrive at my father's feet, a dying mapu tree. He covers his eyes with mud while goats feast on my fallen hair. I hear my mother. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to do my description. Let me start over. My description, I have it up. My bad. I'm nervous, so that's why I forgot. My name is Nadia Alexis. I'm a dark-skinned millennial woman with dark brown skin. And I'm wearing clear, square-shaped glasses. I have a medium-sized afro with black hair. I am wearing a dark green long-sleeve dress with a, I don't have the scarf on. I was going to have it on, but I don't have it on. I prepared this before. I'm also wearing handmade large circle earrings that are painted blue with red and light green polka dots. And like circle patterns that look like flowers. And behind me is butterflies. And on my left is some postcards, visual art by me and some other people. And I'm going to start my poem again. Watershed. I arrive at my father's feet, a dying mapu tree. He covers his eyes with mud while goats feast on my fallen hair. I hear my mother call for the Lord to send just enough rain for our lungs and her carnations to see a new season. My mother always said boys are best at taking. I once loved a boy who turned pomegranates in my yard into salt. In the mirror, I see a donkey's head without a home. Daisies dance atop her hair, and she teaches me how to wail for cover. My mother and I kneel on uncooked rice. Sweat of our hands no longer remembers its owner. Our knees become prunes. One night I see my father weep and rock like a forgotten river. How he must know what it's like to fight against disappearance. The longer I stay in the home my lover and I built on this mountain, the more I tire of circadian leaps into the field of cacti. Every year, Lake Azuye rises and forces change on the trees and birds and people of the watershed. They no longer believe the water will leave them. I spend nights running from hail in the company of vultures. I make peace with the ways my father and I look away from errors and ruin. My parents make rituals of warnings, and I follow in their footsteps anyway. But my mother says I can build a new home from clouds, and I believe her. The next poem is called Dreams of Daddy, which I've only read one other time, I think. Not virtually or anything. I wrote down the wrong page. All right. Dreams of Daddy. I used to dream my daddy as the first builder I knew. His hands thick and brown and vulnerable as a tree's bark. Air in the home always sitting with his light. We knew nothing of being water trapped in edges of glass. His daughters, ripest mangoes picked and built from his and my skies. In my dreams, I knew what it felt like to be in his embrace. Arms like the tide visiting shores and seashells and trails and palms, offering of water's memory and sustenance, always returning. His laughter filled with song of jubilant hummingbirds. He could take us by our shoulders quickly, quickly over frigid, polluted waters. Build us a new pond, repair the nest if it should ever crumble. He would make sure we knew we were of wind and deserving. 61. I'm reading parental poems, I guess. Those are some of the lighter poems. Photographing your mother. This, I will say this, that there's a reel on my Instagram page from, I guess it's from the spring, and it has the picture that inspires this poem. When I did a photo shoot of my mom for her. 50, she was 58. She had turned 58 a couple months prior. So I really like the pictures. Photographing your mother. She's in a blue sequin gown, blood red heels, and head wrap colored kaleidoscope. She is birthsong, her own city, generous mountain. When you press the shutter, your eyes are no longer yours. You are ocean, and every speckle in you weeps. Each selfless gesture of her is on display. You press the shutter, only gift you know how to give. It doesn't matter that everything tried to get in the way. Here she sits with bells for eyes. Her cheekbones and lifelines rise, adorned sanctuaries. This time, one of a few, when you've not failed her as a daughter. Smeared, forgotten sins, both your feathers knew. And the last poem I'll read, a self-portrait at a Dominican hair salon. That was back when my hair was straight, mad years ago. I don't remember, but I had a hairstylist named Johnny. Somewhere between snowfall and cherry blossoms, I take a selfie in hair rollers before the blowout. Today I am wearing mustard yellow. My brown skin glows as if sun rays spring from the salon mirror to say, "Here, take this good light and just forget the bruising." Sitting in Johnny's chair, I see a reflection of a crowd of pigeons outside the storefront fighting over fallen bread. The air conditioner hums through each hair part like they're cups of tea that need cooling. I think I hear someone say, "You deserve comfort." One by one, Johnny picks pink and purple rollers from my relaxed hair, tells me what healthy looks like and how I measure. The red and black blow dryer wails at my scalp, some kind of litany bidding me to ignore what burns, and the yearn for life without scars or debris. Dream up a world where a lost woman can wake up and make herself a different creature. And in the end, see how the hair falls like water spilled with intention. Praise the gods for every jewel. Thank you. Here's my book.
Beautiful work, Nadia. Such a preciously soft poem. Thank you. Next, we have up Noah Davis.
Thank you. Yes, okay, so the visual descriptor, I am a 30-year-old white male with short brown hair and a short beard and with a corduroy purple shirt. Over my left shoulder, I have a I guess, uneven bookshelf with books and a light green background over me. I just want to start off by saying thank you to everybody, obviously, to Cavankerry for making all of our books possible. And then thank you to this cohort of really amazing poets. We were strangers before, we were strangers to me before, but now we are totally entwined to be part of the Cavankerry family, and it is such an honor. Cavankerry was a dream press, and growing up, I had so many Cavankerry books in my home, thanks to my dad. And being on the road this last year, being around other poets, everyone loves the French flaps of Cavankerry books, and so I feel so blessed to be able to have a Cavankerry collection with French flaps. So thank you for making the dream come true. This book, Last Beast We Revel In, it's set in my home of Appalachia, but it is dealing with love of family, love of place, and romantic love, and how all of those loves inform each other so that hopefully we can walk more deliberately through the space, whether that space has been harmed and whether the people have been harmed, and how can we be there for each other. And so the first poem is Trout Heart, with a epigraph from Jim Harrison. I've been told the heart will run out of blood, but I doubt it. When the trout is hooked deep in his throat and held above the river, water on his jaw is first more water than blood, then more blood than water, until only water is left. But if the heart does run out of blood, will the muscle accept water? I love myself enough to believe my heart is a trout. The trout in my beloved's chest is of the same small stream as mine. Can you tell me how many years it will take for trout and all other gilled things to swim without blood? I think one day, enough of us will have died in rivers that hearts can soak under stones, and people will hand each other warm, waterlogged hearts which become the trout in their chests, the bleeding fish with tails kicking out into the current, fading white bellies rising toward the cradled moon. This next poem was one of the poems I like it because and I put it in the book, but this poem was a surprise to me. I think this is the poem that most people sent photos of to me when they got the book, and that people came up and um, talked to me about, which I loved because I grew up in a culture that hunted, and there are obviously so many stereotypes around hunting. And to me and my family and the people that I surround myself in this space, it is hunting is a way of feeding and being connected to the land, being connected to the more than human world around us. And so it feels like this is a poem that it did speak in that way to folks, which I'm happy about. And this, I've been thinking a lot about Ross Gay's poem to my child, If Ever You Shall Be, which is an amazing poem. And Ross is also a Cavankerry poet, so this poem has a lot of that. Is in conversation with that. So, poem sewn into my hunting jacket. When I say I'm going to kill a deer on the mountain, I mean I want our daughter to have the strength to jump fences. And when she doesn't come home at night, we will know to find her in the neighbor's garden. When I say we will know to find her in the neighbor's garden, I mean we will not worry about her in strangers' houses. Because while she grew in you, I carried a deer down from the mountain, then fed you that deer so she could be woven with the folding knowledge of the woods, which is always unfolding. When I say we will find her in the neighbor's garden, I mean she has the strength to jump fences. And when I am weak with age, she will walk into the folding woods and kill a deer on the mountain. Hey, I think I got time for this one more. I love dream poems, and I remember I was in my MFA, and there was a person that was saying how dream poems there's no stakes because as soon as you say it's a dream, anything can happen. And I was like, oh boy, that's such a sad way of thinking about a poem and about a dream poem. And I love dreaming. I feel like I dream more in the winter, and I don't know if it's uh, because the night is so much longer or if I'm just eating sugar more late at night. I don't know, but I do. I get awesome, lovely dreams. But this is a dream about a warmer time, and it ends with the title says it ends with a line from Yeats, but William Butler Yeats's Lake Isle of Innisfree is a poem that I hope everybody reads at some point here. It's one of my favorites. So this is Dream with My Beloved and Honeycomb, ending with a line from Yeats. We lay in the grass for a month, and bees built honeycomb around our bodies. She told me we shouldn't peel the wax from our shoulders because we pull ourselves from this place where we found each other, entangled in the field neither of us knew before, but now lie, coffined and warm, in the bee-loud glade. Thank you so much, everybody. So good to be here with you.
Thank you, Noah. And let me tell you that you got the chat started when you mentioned the French flaps. Joan's really going to be happy about that. We all love the French flaps here. All right, I'm going to beam you out, Noah. I'll bring you back a bit later. Thank you everyone so much so far for being with us. We are about to move on to our next group of readers, and we're going to start with Esteban Rodríguez, who is the author of 8 poetry collections, most recently Loteria, Texas Review Press 2023, and the essay collection Before the Earth Devours Us, Split Lip Press 2021. He is the interviews editor at the Ecoteo Review, senior book reviews editor at Tupelo Quarterly, and associate poetry editor at Agony. He lives with his family in South Texas. Everyone, here is Esteban.
Hello, y'all. Good evening. Start off with my physical description. I was talking about this with my wife, and I was trying to come up with something, and I would be remiss if I didn't say her description, which is a devastatingly handsome 36-year-old with big ears and a contagious smile, which I like to think of myself maybe in those terms. Maybe not the devastatingly handsome, but at least the big ears. I have glasses. My hair is short, parted to the side. I have a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow going on right now, but I'm definitely always smiling as well. And I'm light-skinned, and I'm reading right now from South Texas, and I'll go ahead and start us off. This is the first poem in the collection. It is titled Teeth. When my mother would open her mouth, I'd imagine a set of fossils, yellowed and misshapen bones lodged in the velvet desert of her gums. I'd imagine the dentist she'd visit in Mexico as an archaeologist, who, while staring down, mirror and drill in hand, was unsure how best to clean and dig them out. And I'd imagine that when the monotony and loneliness of cleaning a house became too much, she'd step out onto the porch, light a cigarette, savor each drag. I never found those Camels, those Lucky Strikes, Marlboros, never traced anything to a habit other than the faint smell of smoke clinging to her breath. But I wanted to believe she was addicted to the practice, that this and only this was the reason for the rottenness, because what else but her own body's betrayal could cause craters to pockmark her molars, or to flatten her canines, or to coerce her front teeth to begin to disappear, erasing what enamel she had left. When her incisors fell off, and I could no longer imagine that maybe, just maybe, she didn't brush, or that this was some old country curse, a generational spell of cavities and plaque, I'd look away every time she spoke. And without opening my mouth, I'd run my tongue across my teeth, feeling the way I felt during grade school once, when outside, beside a swing set, a bottom chomper loosened, came off. And all I could think about as I held it in my palm was putting it under my pillow when I got home, hoping that when I woke up in the morning, another tooth, wider, thicker, no longer crooked, would have sprouted, eager to grow. This next poem is titled Shave. A little bit of context. Unfortunately, my mother did pass away earlier this year in March. She battled with the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma for quite a bit. Kind of went on and off. She was able to recover for a few years, but towards the end, it kind of became a little bit too overwhelming. She suffered from a number of different complications, but this was sort of the first time in which I did kind of have to shave off a little bit of her hair because she did undergo chemotherapy. Mom was very prideful, a lot of it in her appearance. She could deal with the rotten teeth. She could deal with some of the stuff that she had wrong with her feet, but her hair she took a lot of pride in. So this one is titled Shave. Night-gowned and hunched at the sink, my mother says she's ready. And I wonder if when I'm done shaving her last patches of hair, she'll look in the mirror, sigh with relief, tell herself how glad she feels that the curls around her ears are gone, that she no longer looks, as she likes to claim, like some sad radioactive clown, or like the mangy dogs that roam the neighborhood, skulking every lawn. Or will she not look, leave the bathroom without saying a word, and on her way to her room reflect on how decades ago she made me stand by the same sink. And after washing out the gel from my newly bleached hair, after saying that this is not how I was raised, she shaved my head. And to emphasize the punishment, she slapped the back of it. So I'd remember how not to behave again. So when I was on my high horse, convinced I own the world, I'd remember how it feels when what I love is gone.
Wow. Oof.
Oftentimes, you take a little bit of liberties with the characters in your poems. I think I've definitely taken a lot of liberties with my father in the poem. My father in these poems is actually my stepfather, but it's kind of more of, he didn't come until later in our life. So the father figure that I usually put in my poems is kind of a combination of like my uncles, other father figures I've known, and a little bit of my father, my stepfather. He doesn't drink, and so when I read him this poem, I don't know if he was like super happy about it, but I did have to let him know, poetry is not always truthful. So this one is titled Nightcap. Nights my father wasn't home, I crashed his liquor cabinet, which wasn't a cabinet at all, but instead a shelf, a dusty, darkened space where between the whiskey, tequila, and rum rested a bottle of Belvedere, which, being the only one my father never drank, I chugged, feeling, from what I thought I knew about vodka, like a Russian villager, an old and jaded man who needed to drink to keep his body warm. Only the coldness I suffered wasn't the weather, but absence. The void I felt when my father left home, when after a half day at work, he refused to bear the same old, stale dinner, novelas, game show, the silence my mother made sure he heard, no matter which room she was in. And where he went was anyone's guess, though I imagine it was more than just the bar, that it was a spot where his drink was filled for him, and where, when he downed another round, his throat, unlike mine, didn't burn, but felt cool, smooth, felt that every drop was a drop he was proud he earned. I'll read two more for you. This one I really like. This one's titled Narratives. Oftentimes, growing up with a very large family, you'd hear a lot of stories and a lot of like stories from my aunts and uncles that were unfortunately exaggerated, but I think hearing them was pretty funny at times. And then I kind of had to invent my own stories, right? As we all do when we're younger, in order to sort of avoid embarrassment or avoid getting caught doing something maybe you weren't supposed to be doing. This one is titled Narratives. In past versions, Abuelo shook his head, said without moving his lips that he was disappointed in my mother, that he thought girls her age shouldn't stay out past 12, hell, even 10. And though in these versions he walks away, leaves the conversation for another day, in the one my tipsy mother suddenly tells she was dragged out of her bed by her hair, beaten in the middle of the floor, and told that if she wanted to be a puta somewhere else. Isn't this how stories go? Aren't narratives always changed? Doesn't the teller hide the truth at first? Then, when they feel they have the right to heal, peel back the surface, reveal every detail, every second of pain. And don't some exaggerate as well, feel the need to up the stakes, like my uncle, who when he talks about the hard time he did, means his one night in jail. Or like my aunt, who after stubbing her toe spoke for weeks about gangrene, amputation, prosthetic legs, life in a wheelchair. Or perhaps like me, when I tell my mother that the bruises on my neck aren't hickeys at all, no, but the aftermath of mosquito bites. Or of bites from a new species of bug I tried to fend off, swiping the air, cursing them out, sure that as they attacked, I'd give them hell before they left the mark. And I read you one more, which is going to be the last poem of the collection. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for such a beautiful evening. This one's titled Home. Then, after a decade of a house on cinder blocks, of empty lots, chained dogs, of a darkness the crooked streetlights could neither convince nor force to move out, my family moves to a new neighborhood. Not the suburbs I'd seen on TV or imagined when I eavesdropped on adults, but a series of houses that felt close enough. I remember the first night I was there, how my father, warrior, sleepwalker, stood outside in the yard, surveyed the field adjacent to the neighborhood, and for what felt like hours, gazed at, stared, looked in every synonym that showed he was content where he was. That a decade of construction sites, 60-hour work weeks, of bearing the bright beatings from the sun had finally paid off. And this 3-bedroom, 2-bath, this finished driveway and thick green lawn, yes, this was the best reward. Thank you all.
Esteban, that was amazing, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Oh man, we have had so far a literary buffet, a feast of authors. And honestly, that was just our spring 2025. If you are compelled by anything you've listened to so far, in the links in the chat, there are the books for each author tonight. Please take a look at that. And you will also see that I put down a support button as well. We've done 46 of these since 2020, and yearly in person, we have over 20 different events, mostly in the East Coast, but across the country. So if you are someone that enjoys these stories, consider donating to us and supporting so we could continue as we move towards virtual reading number 50 in 2026. And help us get to virtual reading 100. Our next individual doesn't need an introduction. This next individual is the queen of Cavankerry Press, the founder, Joan Cusack Handler, who is a poet, memoirist, and psychologist. She has published 3 verse memoirs, Glorious, The Red Canoe, Love in Its Making, and Orphans, and 1 prose memoir, Confessions of Joan the Tall. With Gabriel Cleveland, she co-edited Places We Return to, an anthology of selections from the first 100 books published by Cavankerry Press, the press she founded in 2000 and continues to serve as publisher. Her poems are widely published and have received awards from the Boston Review and 5 Pushcart nominations. She is also the author of the PsychologyToday.com series of art and science. Without further ado, here is Joan Cusack Handler. You're muted. Ma, you're muted. Okay.
Right?
Perfect.
My book is Lights in Cold Rooms, and it basically stemmed from a depression that I suffered during COVID, before COVID, and then during COVID, when there were no clinicians to work with because everybody was stuck at home and couldn't see patients because we were all quarantined. So I started to write because that's what I do. I have to make sense of things. I have to write, and I decided that it was complicated enough so that I had to expand it into a book. I didn't intend to have it published. I was thinking, I was writing it to get through the depression. And I also felt that it would be fine as a family member, as a family history. But the more that I wrote, the more I realized that I really wanted to share this experience with people like myself who needed to connect with other people who understood what the experience is of depression and all the loneliness that comes with it. So I'm actually introducing you to the very beginning of the book, and so here we go. By the way, by way of introduction, I have I'm wearing an Aran sweater, Irish sweater, in cream color. My hair is red. My complexion is light. The hair is red and long and dyed. I am 84 years old, and I'm happy to introduce you to my story. Does it always happen this way, that you have everything perfectly organized until you're sitting in front of an audience and trying to make sense of what you've put together? I'm giving you a collection of poems from, well, they're not just poems, they're prose, but from the first part of the book, which is called The Body, the Culprit. The worst day. My battle with my body began in early childhood, when I noticed I was different from the other kids. Always in a rush, my legs seemed to fly out from under me, leaping many inches off the graph for what was normal for a girl my age. The worst day of my life was the first day of 6th grade, when Sister Mary Lucille announced that we were going to be measured and weighed. My weight didn't bother me. I was quite thin, but my height terrified me. My belly boiled and sweat poured down my neck and chest. I jumped up from my desk, blurting out, "I need to go to the girls' room, sister," and ran out of the room. It took forever for my breath to slow enough for me to walk shakily back to the classroom. "Joan, dear, we've reached the last of the C's, so it's your turn," Sister said. I don't know how I walked to the front. My vision tunneled and my whole body was trembling. Sister's voice sang out, "Nice and straight, dear," while she gently pinned my shoulders back and announced in the loudest voice I'd ever heard, "Joan Cusack, 5 feet 11.5 inches. I was 11 years old. Jolly green giant, beanstalk, stretch. I was the butt of every bully's joke as I walked to school or the store. I especially hated trips to the grocer's, and in a family of 6, there were many, always in the afternoon between school and supper. The boys lurked, particularly in the alleyways between the rows of houses, on the lookout for someone to laugh at and torture. My brother Sonny, a year older than me, was often with them. My nemesis all my young life His favorite taunts were switching off the lights in the cellar when he knew I was down there folding laundry, putting the Cheerios box between us during breakfast so he didn't have to see my face, and laughing at my small breasts, hollering, "Carpenter's dreams, flat as a board, 2 peas on an ironing board." As I approached the alley between the 2 corner houses, the loudest boy would call out, "Hey, Stretch, how's the weather up there?" Followed by the rest of the pack chanting, "Yeah, how's the weather up there?" Most days I just walked straight ahead, as if I didn't even hear them. But sometimes I struck back, gathering my courage and calling, "Just fine." I loved those moments. I felt strong and unafraid. Even when I was scared that I was indeed a giant who may never stop growing, I refused to stoop over to reduce my height. Though my belly scalded with shame, I pretended I didn't hear the insults and walked straighter with conviction that spelled pride to the youngest neighborhood kids who watched from their yards. I never let anyone know how embarrassed I felt, even my mother, though she clearly surmised that I was being tortured again. She insisted that the boys were jealous of me, and my height was something to be proud of. I knew she wasn't true. I knew that wasn't true. And though I tried to tell her, she was relentless. Sonny continued to torment me, but I said nothing. Our older sister, Catherine, also hated being tall. She was 4 years older and 3 inches shorter, and she probably had already reached her full height. I couldn't understand why she complained about her height to me. It felt mean, but I remained silent, saying nothing to my girlfriends, parents, teachers. No one knew how I felt. At times, even me. I envy the nomad moving further and further from home. Some days, I think that my longing for isolation is rooted in my feeling like an outsider all my young life. I belonged nowhere. Most comfortable when I was alone, I dreamed of walking with a sheet over my head and body so no one could see me. I lived as if that were true, as if I didn't hear the taunting of my brother and the neighborhood boys, as if I were proud, happy, beautiful, as if I didn't feel. My only pleasure came in the awareness that I never gave the boys the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart when they teased me, as if I didn't care about them or my height. One's center must really be home. Morphing. In time, height became something to be proud of, as Mom had insisted. From feeling ugly and disgusting during my early years, I came to understand that what had been horrible in kids' cycles could morph into beauty in the adult world. In a matter of a year or two, I went from having no boys interested in me, even having to get a blind date for both my high school and college proms, to having as many guys as I wanted. It was a transformation that reshaped not only how others saw me, but how, more importantly, how I saw myself. A profound gift. I was suddenly in charge, desired, attractive. Along with 2 college girlfriends, Bridget and Joan, I started going to Friday night adult dances down on 86th Street in Manhattan's Germantown, which was known for its church and club-sponsored social events for immigrant German and Scandinavian men and women anxious to meet Americans. It was there that joy exploded. As the tall women's department didn't tend to stock stylish clothes, Mom took it upon herself to start making my clothes worthy of my Friday night's dance. And she was good at it. Our first step was to go to Macy's and pick out a pattern and fabric, magenta, turquoise, or navy taffeta, or my favorites, white pot de soie, black velvet, or burgundy matelassé. Then shortly before Mom cut out the dress, I begin to redesign it. Let's make angel sleeves that swish as I walk. Or maybe we could change this ballet neck to a V. Or how about adding a toss of emerald silk as a shawl? Extra taffeta to the navy tulip dress to emphasize my waist. It was endless, me designing and Mom altering. Amazingly, for a person who was depressed herself and often cranky or worse, she never lost her cool or made me feel bad for doubling her work. She never insisted I be satisfied with the original pattern. Instead, she was my willing, even eager partner, sharing her own ideas about highlighting a sleeve or adding a jacket to complete a look. We were in heaven. Two neophyte designers giving birth to our just conceived creation. She surprised me once with a voluminous black velvet shawl to complete the white strapless pot de soie. It was perfect. I loved it. She loved it. I felt myself walking differently, gliding almost, and I was ready. My first adult dance. The dance hall was decorated with green velvet, the color of Christmas, and the giant oak that kept a watch over our beach when I was a girl. Floor-to-ceiling drapes and countless chairs and small tables covered with pristine white cloths. At the center of each table were 4 or 5 yellow tea roses in thin glass vases. Gold sconces hung from the walls behind a stage graced with dark-haired, gorgeous men tuning violins, cellos, and a piano. I did my best to ignore the rush of butterflies that filled my belly and chest as I approached the table I shared with Bridget and Joan, somehow managing to walk straight. After a few steps, I glided, truly. And as I had hoped, lots of men asked me to dance. Many were Scandinavian and comfortable around tall women. They eagerly told me how beautiful I was and how much they'd like to see me again. What lovely moments in my life. Such heaven. After that, I started dating and grew more and more confident, more daring, until I could walk into a room, pick out the most handsome guy, and set about attracting him to me, which never took long. Eye contact is a magical potion. I was filled with a self-love that I hadn't thought possible. I wasn't Joan anymore. I was reborn. Between boils, styes, and endless height, I'd never dreamed I would embrace my height as desirable or sexy. Only once before this, in my youth, did I glimpse the future of womanhood. I was 12 years old and walked along Edgewater Jetty in my brand new white bathing suit with a huge red poppy along the side and discovered men's eyes following me. In that sexist, all too binary time, I couldn't imagine more joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan, for that lovely, enlightening, eye-opening, entertaining look into your life. Every single book that we pick up by Cavankerry Press explores that emotional and psychological landscape of everyday life. And Joan's collection, her body of work at Cavankerry Press is a testament to that. And I appreciate being able to learn about the boss through the literature that the boss writes. It's a wonderful thing. Next up, we have Marina Carreira, she, they, who is a queer Luso-American poet and artist from Newark, New Jersey, a Pushcart Prize nominee and 2024 Luso-American Fellow in the Disquiet Literary Program. Carreira is the author of Descascada, Bottle Cap Press 2023, Tantu Tantu, Cavankerry Press 2022, Save the Bathwater, Get Fresh Books 2018, and I Sing to That Bird Knowing It Won't Sing Back, Finishing Line Press 2017. She has exhibited her art at the Newark Museum, Morris Museum, Artfront Galleries, and Monmouth University Center for the Arts, among others. Carreira works in higher education and teaches women and gender studies at Kane University. You can find her on Instagram at Save the Bathwater. Everyone, here is Marina.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you, Gabe, Joan, Cavankerry, the whole team, and I feel so incredibly blessed to be part of this like amazing cohort of poets. Like, I already have a few of y'all's books, but not others, and I need to get on, the whole roster. So I'm honored to be in company with you. So I'm reading from Dead Things and Where to Put Them. And the book was written during the pandemic and is centered on the pandemic. And it's a testimony to loss in all of its different forms. I'd like to think that transcends the pandemic to just kind of a story about someone trying to survive a really, really hard time in life and knowing that even though you lose someone, you don't ever really lose them. And before I read, I do want to provide my description. I am a white Portuguese American woman with cropped blonde hair, blonde eyebrows, brown eyes. I have gold earrings on my ears and a septum ring that's gold on my nose. I have neck tattoos. I am wearing a off-white apricot sweater with joy embroidered on it. Yeah, and I will start with the first poem, Pandemic. I've been ready for the end times since Avul adjusted the rusty antennas, turned up Telemundo, watched American-formed wars and famines in Spanish, muttered El fin del mundo to no one. I sat by the open window and looked out at the sanitation guys, tote bags heavy with the old world, police stashed down East Ferry in a fury to lock up someone just trying to survive. When Amalia was born, my body became pandemic. Believed I would kill her if I didn't wash my hands a billion times. Skin raw as meat, toys sanitized till they broke, Binky boiled to death. She grew up to show me living things get sick and live anyway. Today, I watch neighbors swarm the ShopRite to load up on overpriced non-perishables and bleach. Amazon sell out of masks and Purell. Stock markets plummet, and men in charge make terrible decision after terrible decision, always putting human interest last. The irony of folks that hate the poor and migrant trying to flee from their contained cities. Some things never change, some people never will, but I've learned everything but death is inevitable. When the end of the world comes, I'll await its arrival the way Avul greeted every morning in his old age, peeling an orange extra slow, delighting in how it leaves our chins smelling. I don't know about y'all, but when we were on lockdown, I looked at the moon a lot. So I still look at the moon a lot and I follow the moons. And we just had a super moon, which I don't know if I think it was the sturgeon moon or some weird thing. But anyway, this poem is called Wolf Moon. I'm the one howling at you tonight, howling in sorrow and angst and vain and solidarity with all other mad women cooped up for too long in their mortgaged houses, in their tired bodies, in their half-lit, half the time heads, snapping at the forced air, snarling every time someone asks about dinner. I've never been more wild in domesticity, baring my teeth at boredom, scratching at walls for release. Oh, to be a cur in the dark embrace of woods, to run miles and miles away from sound and screen, to crown myself with violets after praying, bloody mouth a headlight in the wind. Blame it on the patriarchy, blame it on the pandemic, blame it on the moon, full and spreading herself rabidly over us as I watch at the window. For fuck's sake, can't women and wolves do that too? Live fat and feral without having to die trying. I also went to Dunkin' Donuts a lot during the pandemic. Well, the drive-through Dunkin' Donuts, parking lot at Dunkin' Donuts, right? Because you couldn't go in. So that was the thing, and that sort of inspired this poem, Dollar Store Mary. Protect me while I drive away from the screaming kids and soon-to-be ex, the dirty dishes and laundry baskets, the work laptop and unshoveled snow. Lead me down these icy roads as I drive to the nearest Dunkin' to get coffee and cry in their parking lot. I need 10 minutes to spill myself, sit with the shadow grief cast over the sear, its misty hands around my neck, its smoky legs across my ankles so that I'm choking, I'm tripping on death. Holy Mother dangling from the rear view, take this body to where there is no pain or purpose, where I can lay like a diamond against the darkness, shining and hardened. Hide me inside the song of a sparrow, take me into outer space, where all I hear is the sound of my own breath catching. And this is the title poem, Dead Things and Where to Put Them. So much to bury, so much lifelessness carried in the pit of your belly, the bulge of your back, the calluses of your feet. The bird that flew into the window weeks before your firstborn wailed into the world. That midnight between the dark pines and my waist in his hands. The white currant bushes dried up by the fires. Yellowed notebooks and fallen teeth. The seahorses scooped out of the Atlantic, the kit in the crow's mouth. The kittens avua tossed into a bag and threw behind the shed. The onion-domed house, the white and blue house, the chicken coop, your rosary, your bata, your body. Dead things and where to put them if not in the ground, the damp earth where all things return, right next to the graves of the matriarchs whose homes are now rubble, along the roads I walked in the summers of my youth, hands shielding child eyes from the unbearable light of dusk. I also discovered my love of rabbits during COVID. So I will end with a poem called To the Baby Rabbits in My Backyard. You will not remember this overcast sky where rain breaks through the sun every so often, turning the hard earth to sloppy mud, nor this delicate moment when I lifted a patch of damp grass to reveal 5 of you, soft, black, and squirming with the same queries for the universe we hold. Before I marveled at the sight of your buttoned eyes and tiny ears, bodies sleek with new fur and soil. Before I looked up at the heavens to check for crows, before I begged this manicured yard to keep you warm, I sighed so goddamn hard my heart combusted. I've been holding myself in for weeks now, from fear that nothing will be the same again because nothing will be the same again. There are so many things we aren't meant to survive. But I swallow the vinegar with the honey and lower the clump back down, pat the earth you lie under and wait, and sit by my window for the rest of the day, waiting on your mother. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that, Marina. It's always lovely to hear you read. For a book that was done during COVID, your words and spirit are so alive throughout the pages. So thank you so much. Our final reader for this evening. Y'all are still there? Thank you for being with us throughout the course of this evening. After our next reader, we will be going over into the Q&A session where we have some questions prepared, but if anyone wants to jump in, there's been such an active chat this evening, and thank you so much for that because Cavankerry creates work. Well, Cavankerry publishes work that is created by authors that need to be heard and want to have those conversations. So I'm so glad that there's so many people compelled to be writing in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and then we'll bring it over to that section we're having the conversation. Our last reader is Danny Schott. Danny Schott's works was published in 2018 by Cavankerry Press. Recent endeavors for Mr. Schott include being an associate editor of A Gathering of the Tribes magazine from 2020 to 2023, and poetry editor of Red Fez 2018 to 2021. You can hear him talk about his family on the recent podcast LBI Presents Ghosts of Your Family Past from the Leo Baeck Institute. He was featured on the PBS television show State of the Arts and the occasion of his book party for Works. Told you all after 8 o'clock I get a little funny. Danny is a New Generation Beat Poet Laureate 2024 to Lifetime. Danny Schott was the longtime publisher and editor of the arts and literary magazine Longshot, which he founded along with Elliot Katz in 1982 in New Brunswick, New Jersey. More information can be found on his website at dannyschott.com. Everyone, here he is.
Thank you, Dimitri. Of course, Dimitri just read an old bio of me. This year I had 2 books published, one being Nightbird Flying from Roadside Press. That was published in February. And then, of course, we have this, The Jersey Slide. And I really like the cover of it. Bob Persanti made it. And he did other Cavankerry covers for Jack Weiler. And anyway, I'm really happy to be reading my poems following such a talented group of writers, for real. And Joan, it's always a pleasure and an honor sharing the stage, virtual though it may be, with you. And thanks to all of Cavankerry for having faith in me. I appreciate that. I don't like describing myself physically, but since that's what we're doing, here's, I guess, what you should know. I'm a dashingly handsome older gentleman of 68 years old, whose face may indeed be said to bear the whips and scorns of time. I have a salt and pepper beard and wrinkles, or maybe we could call them smile lines, from a lifetime of observing the human comedy. I'm wearing a black t-shirt with a skeleton on it from the Capuchin catacombs in Rome. Okay, for the poems. I just finished reading Patti Smith's newest memoir, Bread of Angels. So I thought I'd start with a poem about Patti Smith. Hero worship. Patti's heroes are my heroes. Rimbaud, Ginsberg, Dylan, Burroughs, Corso, Houdini, Joan of Arc, Marianne Faithfull. I must have found a few of my own. Patti Smith is my hero. I met her once up close, like this close, at St. Mark's Poetry Project. It was awkward. I tried to give her a book of poems by Jack Weiler. I have no clue. Jack from Winona, a small town, South Jersey, Patti from Vineland or thereabouts. Jack 5 years older than me and 5 years younger than Patti. The first time I met Jack, he said, I thought you and Elliot Katz were old guys. Jesus Christ, you're just a kid. I was 22. So anyway, I thought she might like the book. Anxious, I took a step toward Patty, handing the book to her. She took a step back. "This is a book," I said. "I got a book for you." She took a step back. "A book for you. I got a book." Another step back. "This is for you. A book." Allen Ginsberg, close by, came over, put his arm around me. "This is my friend Danny. He wants to give you a book." And he guided my hands toward Patty, who reached out, nervous smile on her face, to take the book. "Thanks," she said, disappearing. Today, I'm reading M Train, a book friends have warned me about. It's not just kids, you know. Maybe that's why I like it better as I discover new heroes. Thank you, Patti Smith, Spirit Guide, Hero. Okay, this poem began as a text. I was texting my friend Eva HD, who's a terrific poet. Actually, she wrote the description of the Jersey slide that's in the French flap in the front. But anyway, this is, anyway, it explains itself. A Sunday in March. I'm sitting in a church hall in Jersey City with a whole bunch of Ukrainian and Afghan refugees, kids running all over the place. People seem genuinely happy to be able to speak to each other in their native languages. When I picked my family up, Yulia, the mother, seemed taciturn and maybe sad. Now she is laughing with the other women. We're supposed to leave at 2:30, but I don't want to drag her away. The women are now exchanging numbers, and a few of them are crying, which makes me want to cry, which of course I won't. This must be how my mother once felt. Maybe. Too. I'll tell you how it ended, which might make you laugh. It made me laugh. Another family who Yulia met asked if I could give them a ride home as they lived a few towns from Yulia. I said, sure. The man said, how much? They all thought I was an Uber driver. On the way back, the women were laughing and talking nonstop. I dropped Yulia and her son off in Hackensack. The man spoke a little English, his wife and son not at all. I had explained that I was doing this as volunteer work for the Hoboken Synagogue, where I'm not a member, but am a friend of the rabbi. As I let them out by their home, he said, how much? I told him the ride was free. He said, you said you were Jewish. I laughed. His wife heard us laughing. I think she asked what we were laughing at. He said something, but I heard the word Juden. She reached into her pocketbook and started pulling out money. I was like, no, all smiles. As they left my car, he came over to my side to hug me. You, a rare, remarkable man, he said before leaving. Okay, this poem is the first poem in the book. It's called Tempest. And I wrote it in a fit of pique. Actually, I was sort of drunk. I was more than sort of. And I just came from an event at the Whitney Museum, and I was angry for not being included in something. And it's about some of my poetry heroes, colleagues, etc. And I pretty much wrote it all in one fell swoop. Tempest. All the poets who ever writ are here with me. I raise the mainsail up the mast for those who passed into the night alive within us. The closeted friend too ashamed to seek treatment until too late. A black-hatted Nuyorican legend lugging a condom crucifix, singing songs of Puerto Rican liberation. The blind professor holding court upon a smoky couch, welcoming all who sail through open door to introduce themselves. I stand before you, bent but unbowed, gray but not dead, anonymous and proud. Some poets have tied their sails and souls to the warm comforts of the academy. Rare few have cast off against the prevailing gales, emerging as prophet for their motley crew of misfits. Others became unmoored by the cruel vicissitudes of fashion, unable or unwilling to follow the wind. A few have fallen into the doldrums, pounding out despaired manifestos to the sound of Mahler on broke-down radios in half-lit rooms. Hyacinths for the disappeared thrown into the roiling sea. So-called enemies of state, victims of the dictator's purge, and those destroyed by madness and lack of recognition. Yet, here I stand, creased by absurd laughter, unembittered by rejection, breathless in love with the elusive beauty of words spoken into the void. To all the poets who ever lived, proclaiming God's glory in the Judean desert, telling tales of epic wanderings off Ionian shores, griots singing praise songs, calling on ancestors' protection, besotted flaneurs, absinthe-blind scribbling in tattered notebooks, the muscle-bound hod carrier from way out west who broke his back under the weight of belief that poetry could save our souls. The feminist icon brooding at her kitchen table over her terminal diagnosis. A candy store owner from Bayonne holding intricate jazz lines in his head while serving soda pop to thirsty teens. The working class Brooklyn Jew who found his distinctive voice later in life and couldn't stop sharing. A singular woman writing shapeless verse to no one and everyone simultaneously. I call you forth, here upon this rugged deck, enveloped in the foggy soup between wreckage and time, memory and consciousness. Sail with us upon the choppy waves. Thank you.
Yes, Danny, ending with Tempest. I appreciate it. Sorry again for your bio. It's like the second time I did that. I apologize. But thank you so much for your work. All right, everyone, at this point in time, the rest of the Cavankerry Press authors for this year are going to get spotlit in. We are now transitioning over to our conversation for the evening. And thank you everyone for being here, both those that are coming just to listen and those that are here with us. You know, thinking about everyone we have in this room here, we're all across the country. You know, Danny just came from a trip to Italy where he was also reading the Jersey Slide all the way in Italy. So we've covered a lot of space with the books that we've published this year. So thinking about the ways in which people have interacted with your book, either reading it themselves or hearing you at a reading, has someone said something to any of you that made you aware of your book's impact? Joan, you're muted. Hold on, Joan. Oh, yeah, it's brilliant, I'm sure. Joan, you're muted.
Maybe for this part, everyone should unmute themselves so we can answer.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Still muted, Joan. There you go.
Did you hear me read before?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. We heard you read. It was great. Yeah, we heard you, Joan. But you were going to say something about any of an anecdote or your book's impact?
No, it was just what you, the second part of what you said. I just didn't understand.
Oh, okay. Has someone said something to you that made you aware of your book's impact? And I'll let you ponder that for a second. Or did you have something you wanted to jump in with?
I got some really nice reviews.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'd love to hear about that.
Interestingly enough, Goodreads is very generous, and they're basically a really classy operation. compared to Amazon and whomever. But yeah, it's just been the sense that I have is that what I hoped to achieve in readers was what they expressed in their reviews. So it was a wonderful experience for me because they got it. Lots of nice things were said, but basically they got it. They knew that I had something to offer and that it was worth listening to. And that was very gratifying.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you for mentioning those spaces like Goodreads. I think we forget about the power of those platforms. We always think about those book reviews and those interviews in literary magazines, but
Right.
there's so many of those normal readers, right? The everyday reader that are
Yeah.
turning to things like Goodreads. So sometimes what we do feels like we're just kind of speaking into the void. So it's nice when we get those
Yeah, they
responses and
really
those reviews.
definitely. On the other hand, Amazon has one review.
Okay.
That's good old up Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are going to make $1 million hanging out with Amazon. And interestingly, and Barnes and Noble hasn't any reviews. They all, showcase the book very nicely, but it's just interesting. I still haven't figured it out, and maybe I won't, how Goodreads has shown a real interest in the book, and Amazon and Barnes and Noble has not.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll hold on to that as we float it around. As the marketing and communications director here, I have my own qualms in terms of algorithms and what hits certain numbers in certain places. But we'll go around and see what other people's experiences are. And maybe there's something to say about those different reviews from other folks too, Joan. So thanks for putting that out there. Marina, you had your hand up first, and then we'll go to Bridget. I feel like I'm in school.
So this has nothing to do with reviews.
Okay.
I had someone come up to me at a reading and then follow up with me via email and asked if two of the poems that I had written that were about gender-based violence, if they were indeed about gender-based, a specific gender-based violent act. And, I confirmed, and she said that, it was really, it really moved her, and it really, she sort of resonated with it, and it was because of the language. And it's so interesting because that is something that I tried to use language to sort of talk about and not talk about without talking about it, right? To sort of not hide it in there, but be able to talk about it in a way that I don't have to re-traumatize myself, right? So this person was able to, through, I think, I don't know, like a poem like um uh in the forest at midnight, to know that that's a specific kind of poem, like she nailed it. And I was just like, it was really touching to feel like another human connected with my work on such a like very parallel level.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting, right? Because we're writing such vulnerable work, but we still try to do it in a way that's elusive enough that like it's kind of like that phrase within communities. If you know, you know. Like if you're really close to that experience, you're gonna pick up on it. and then everyone else can kind of still experience it, even though if they could do more empathy than sympathy of being in that exact situation. And you just never know who you're actually going to touch with that kind of stuff. So that's great, Marina. I'm glad that you had that experience with someone. Bridget?
Yeah, I had this happen twice during after two different readings where I had an older man come up to me who had been a medical provider,
Hmm.
had been an OB, and I think of my immediate audience for my book. I think of is mothers, and so it was really powerful because both of these men came up to me and they said something along the lines of like, when I was practicing, um, like we didn't know, and it was sort of like it was almost like this confession, like they were almost like confessing to me that, and they didn't go into detail, like if they had, brushed someone's symptoms aside or what their personal experience was, but something in the poems made them feel the need to come up to me and like tell me that they were an old doctor and that they didn't know. So that was really kind of powerful for me to hear that.
Yeah. Did you expect at the offset of this book that when you were writing for, your niche set of audiences, using that marketing word that we both threw
Yeah.
around a lot during the marketing process, about women and those suffering with postpartum and motherhood, that you would also start reaching out and filling in gaps with these other ancillary audiences?
I didn't think about, I mean, I certainly thought about the book reaching medical providers.
Mhm.
And that was important to me because I think it's a good tool for building empathy. But
Mhm.
I didn't think about it. I thought about it as like current medical providers. I didn't think about how it would land with retired medical providers who were working in a world before we knew a lot about, perinatal mood disorders or before they were really talked about. So it was cool to see them kind of reflecting on their personal experience through the poems.
Mm. That's great, Bridget. Thank you. Um, Yeah. So, anyone else in terms of like impacts for the books? All right. So there's this other question here that I have also, and it kind of leads into this from the other one. So, all of you were published because, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Jones, your books represent Cavankerry's purposes of publishing work that explores the emotional and psychological landscapes of everyday life. So, to you all as the authors, what is the importance of such exploration of emotional and psychological landscapes through literature? What is the importance of your own exploration of emotional and psychological landscapes in your book? I know Noah, you kind of mentioned this earlier when you were talking about the ideologies and the different stereotypes behind things such as hunting. So, when you were doing this book, what was the exploration for you like, and what were you expecting?
Yeah, I I was lucky. I grew up in a house where we were always trying to think of, of radical empathy, of trying to jump outside ourselves, um, which I was, yeah, really grateful for, and has really shaped my life and my art. Um, and I love the place that I came from so
Mhm.
much, the landscape, the people, but it breaks my heart all the time. I'm saddened
Mhm.
by it. I'm disappointed by it, and by people and different ideologies that come from my space, and so I I think that that's one of the, Bridget mentioned it before in her introduction of the holding the two different things at once. And again, that is, I believe, what poetry does so powerfully. And I wanted to say that this book I was nervous putting it out in a way that even my first book I didn't have coming out, particularly around the long poem that is the title poem of this, with subject and also breadth. And I thought I was only going to read it at one reading this year,
Interesting.
and after that reading, excuse me, I had someone reach out to me because I mentioned that, how I was like, I think like this is the only place I'm going to be able to read this, and I'm going to read it once. And so thank you everybody for that. And I had a person who again, I did not expect to reach out to me to say, no, you should read that more. You should read that in other places. And so that was a powerful reader, an audience member interaction that gave me the confidence that I could maybe I could share it more. And I ended up doing it in settings that I didn't think I would. And yeah, so I'm so grateful for that. And I think that one of the ways that we as poets, we offer the art out into the world, but I think it grows more beautiful with others, with readers and people who interact with it. And that's what I'm so grateful about from
Yeah.
this past year.
That's awesome, man. Thanks. There's this thing that goes on in a lot of craft classes where when you're writing a poem and people say that if you put that poem in a room full of 20 people, like you'll get 20 different interpretations of what that poem is going to be, right? Everyone's going to get something different. And the same goes, Joan, of course, for, a chapter in your memoir, right? Everyone's going to get they're going to take something different from that. And it makes me think, Esteban, of your exaggerated family stories. And one of the first messages that came in when you came up, Bridget was like, 8 books, baller. And I was like, actually, that might have been the first time I messed up the bio for the night, because I think you might even have another book out by now, because you're just so prolific. And it's just a blessing that you're able to produce in this capacity. Kind of honing it down to the ideas of emotional and psychological landscapes. Do you feel like you're kind of always exploring the same thing through your books in different facets? How's The Lost Nostalgias different from what you've written previously?
Yeah, I think it is. Thank you all for those lovely comments. I think it is. I do explore kind of the same topics, familial interactions, growing up in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, and then just kind of trying to find my identity and trying to find a sense of belonging with my speaker. I think I like to think of the poems. The in the first book, Dusk and Dusk. There's obviously a lot of poems about mothers, fathers, and the landscape, and the same thing with the Lost Nostalgias. And I like to think of them in the same way that maybe a musician might think of their songs, whether they're playing it in a studio, whether they're playing it live, whether they're playing it, an acoustic version. And I kind of think of like, just different iterations of those same things, but just presented a little bit differently. And hopefully I'm able, the poem that you see about my mother's teeth differs slightly from another poem about my mother's teeth in a previous book that I had. So
That's awesome, Esteban. Thank you. Um, Thank you so much for everyone that stood on to. It's starting to get pretty late. People are saying they need to drop out for work and other duties, and I understand that. So, in thinking about time, I just wanted to end with one last wild card question from Bridget, and maybe Nadia and Danny, if you could field these. It doesn't have to be too long. It could be like a minute or 30 seconds of an explanation. But what Bridget said was she had a question for her fellow authors, and Nadia and Danny, I'm giving it to you. Coming off of this new book, we're assuming that everyone's going on book tours and having readings. What's your favorite part about touring? And I guess either for this book or what you've done in your just publishing history, and any wisdom learned from this process of doing book tours or reading out with people. Danny, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I read out all the time. One thing I do want to mention is you can get my book from Cavankerry from one of the links there that should be in the chat. But aside from that, um, I just like meeting people around the country in different places. And sometimes it's grueling. I've read to a few hundred people. I've read to 2 or 3 people at a time. And I try to give it my best each time, but I generally am better at what I do when there's a big audience, you know. Um, but I just like meeting people from different places, different parts of the country. That's what I enjoy most about going out to read my stuff. And I like getting out of New York City, which is where I read the most.
That's awesome, Danny. I laughed because I had a visceral reaction when you said couple hundred, and then sometimes you walk into a space and there's like 2 or 3, and a place that seats 50 or 60, and then all of a sudden that 2 or 3 looks a lot, smaller in that space. I actually have a screenshot from this Netflix series called BoJack Horseman that I'm saving for when I launch my next book, whenever that gets published. That is about what a general book launch looks like, and they have all the chairs set up and stuff and the panels ready, and you're about to really go to town, and there's like 3 people that kind of just walked into the place. They don't even know what's going on. And hopefully you get to talk to them about your books. Hilarious. So thank you for that, Danny. Nadia, what about you? What's your experience been like? You've had a very active book tour. What are some thoughts you have from being on the road?
Um, I think my favorite part is connecting with readers too, especially people that are new to my work. My favorite, or one of my favorite tour stops was a book club meeting in New Orleans. I live an hour and a half from there, so I just drove over there after work. And it was a Haitian book club. And one of the things that I always wanted is for it to end up in the hands of other Haitian women, Haitian American, born there. Um, so that was like really special for me. And then for them to pick up on what I was doing in the book and like call the book a spiritual book as it relates to Haitian voodoo was really validating. And it made me be like, oh, I have to like hit up some other like Haitian, organization spots, events, and things like that. And so hopefully I can end up at the Miami Book Fair or something because there's a lot of us there.
Yeah.
I missed the deadline. So yeah, that was, connecting and just kind of growing over the course of the year. I'm a different person than the person who I was when I started the year. And so that is really nice. And part of it has to do with touring and then non-touring stuff. So I think, living a life while you are also an author is always something that happens. I guess you're doing multiple things simultaneously. So it's interesting. And I'm very glad that this is my last event for the year. So, yeah, I'm very glad. I was just telling my sister earlier because, it's the end of the year, it's the end of the semester I teach. So I'm also like, that's part of why I'm glad. But I have stuff in the spring, but not super early, which I'm glad about too. Although I'll take early if it comes. But yeah.
Yeah, listen, y'all, like Nadia was working. I mean, if my fingers were hurting at all for saying, make sure you're getting rest, make sure you're not overtaking too many things, Nadia was at every single event, every month, like every week. And it's amazing. I love the various personalities of everyone on this Zoom room on how you've all decided to take your tours and your journeys, and you all have such lovely books, and I'm so glad to help liaise you all in this process. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say this is year 1, y'all. There's always a year 2, right? So I cannot wait to see what else you all have in store for the world and for the book. for your books. Thank you all so much for being here. At this point in time, I will turn my candy cane over to the other side. And that will be the signal to the end of our reading. Happy holidays to you all. Love and warmth to everyone in this room, to your families, to your friends and loved ones, and everyone else that was in this audience. At this point in time, Tamada, you can unmute everyone so we could all just give one more raucous round of applause. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Woo! Woo!